And thank you everybody for attending today's session. We are very excited with today's launch, and even more so with the way we are really changing the wired networking access layer with what AIOps is bringing to the table. Along with me, I also have Abhi presenting. We'll go a little bit deeper into how Marvis has helped us solve the difficult problem first, the difficult problem being the day two operations. How do we assure and ensure a good experience for every wired client? So he took you through the journey of Juniper Mist, where we began our foundation in the wireless network. And after the acquisition of Juniper, we were also able to bring the AIOps framework to the wired network. Very excited to be here today and talk to you and showcase to you how that has been helping a lot of our customers across different verticals. So just like as Bob said on our self-driving networks journey, telemetry is key, good data is key to make good decisions. Our focus the last couple of years has been getting the right telemetry information from the wired switches. This works both for third-party switches as well as for our Juniper stack. Obviously, from a Juniper perspective, we get a lot more telemetry information given the comprehensive capabilities of Junos that enables us to deliver what we call AI primitives. And I'll be talking to you in the follow-on slides about this whole service level experience framework that we have enabled with this extensive telemetry coming into the Mist cloud from the Juniper EX switches. So what is this service level experience? We in the industry have always been very familiar with SLAs, right? SLAs for the network, SLAs for a WAN link, SLAs for an application. But Mist has been the first one in the industry back when we started our journey in 2016 with coming out with this framework of user experience. Everything that we do, everything that we leverage machine learning for is all focused on measuring the user experience and then quantifying, identifying, and in some cases proactively even recommending what is impacting that user experience. That's what you saw Sudhir presenting on the wireless side with some of the Marvis actions on wireless, some of the Marvis actions on WAN. And now we'll go a little bit deeper on the wired side. Typically, we think wired access, configure it, a gig port is a gig port, a 10 gig port is a 10 gig port, and life is good. What we found when we enabled this visibility 2 years ago and have it running in a lot of large enterprises in retail, in healthcare, in higher ed, that our customers, our network operators, our network admins, even help desk are finding issues that they were previously unaware of existed that were actually impacting end user experiences. These end user experiences could be end users who are, our employees such as us with our laptops and our workstations. It could also be headless devices. Think of your digital signage in retail. Think of your server machines or your audiovisual equipment in the enterprise and your EBCs. All of these devices are connecting to our network either wirelessly or wired. And with the foray of IoT, we're also seeing a lot more cameras come into the network. And this is where the wired assurance comes into play and talks about exactly how are we measuring, again, the user experience for every wired client connecting to the network, both from a pre-connection perspective as well as post-connection perspective. For pre-connection, we then do anomaly analysis to see if there are any changes in behavior of baselining based on DHCP or authentication issues. You saw Sudhir talk about the persistently failing clients on the wireless side. As part of this exciting launch we're doing today, we do the same thing also on the wired side. So again, the power of full stack, the power of telemetry makes us being able to deliver actionable insights to the network admin to ensure that the user experience is always optimal. From a post-connection experience perspective, we look at congestion in downstream, congestion upstream. A lot of our customers look at capacity planning on the wired network thinking, today I have a 1 gig uplink. Should I be going to a 10 gig uplink? In some cases, should I be going to a 100 gig uplink? When you look at higher ed, for example. And some of the, again, the telemetry information that we process and then apply the baseline to helps answer those questions of, is the network out of capacity? So enough said about the technology. Let's exactly see how this is helping some of our customers in real life. So this is a use case where wired assurance really shined for our customer, where we are seeing this trend with a lot of the wired infrastructure also now moving towards a more .1x backend framework. This transition, as we know, is complex and it's scary because you're moving your entire network from your legacy frameworks to a .1x backend, and not a lot of endpoint devices sometimes are capable. Also, it requires a lot of automation to ensure that the migration is seamless. So what happened here with this large retailer who has deployed in thousands of locations and they have more than 1,000 switches deployed is our AI primitives in the form of service level expectations actually were able to catch an issue impacting across all of their 1,000+ locations, specifically one particular location where it was not a switch health problem, it was not a throughput problem. There was a successful connect problem, however, on that particular site. Turns out, as part of the automation that was done, the switch on this site was missed as being added as a NAS client on the Radius server. And that led to a huge blip on the network where the clients connecting on that wired switch were not able to authenticate. So with the insights that we were able to provide for this retailer with distributed enterprises across US, across Canada, they were able to very quickly, again, find that needle in the haystack, find the actual issues impacting a particular site proactively and take action. So within 24 hours, they were able to remedy the situation, escalate to the InfoSec team to get that switch added as a NAS client to the Radius server, and all was well. This is about how successful connects was helping our customer find that one store out of thousands, one switch out of thousands, and help fix the issue. Now let's get to post-connection. How do we measure user experiences on the wired network from a post-connection perspective? This is where we look at the Throughput SLE. So Throughput SLE here is actually measuring, again, the throughput from every port on every switch, sending telemetry data to the Mist cloud. So again, it's not about switch health. It's not about network uptime. It's about actually measuring the impact to end users because of a throughput issue. The throughput issue could be, again, because of congestion downstream. It could be because of a congestion uplink. It could be because of network latency and jitter. It could be also because of interface anomalies on certain ports. The myriad reasons why an issue could be impacting an end user experience are many, right? However, being able to sift through all the data, all the logs, all the trends, and being able to very quickly pinpoint what exactly is impacting the end user's post-connection experience is what this Throughput SLE is all about. And this is where we're able to correlate. If it is a wired wireless stack, we are able to correlate that end user across the wireless into the wired. With the wired only stack, we can do the same thing for just all the devices connecting to the switches for every port, and then measure in a user minute whether the experience is positive or negative. So when you see throughput is 98% success, that success is measured in the users actually getting the level of throughput that has been designed as per the network. That 2% failure, though, is what we're interested in. And that 2% failure is what we then are able to identify as to the root cause of what's causing that failure, as well as what the scope is, which switches, which VLANs, which interfaces on that particular switch, and more importantly, which client. It's always about client to cloud. It's always about measuring the end user experience on the wired network. Now, again, let's see how this was actually helping some of our customers when we were able to do this post-connection analysis for every port sending telemetry data to the Mist cloud. So this is a large enterprise, and storm control is typically a good thing. However, when misconfigured, it can cause impact to the wired clients. In this case, the users are always complaining about, hey, my video experience in my executive briefing center in this enterprise is very choppy. And the network IT team was not able to quite figure out why, because they had done all the right configurations, at least from what they had seen. However, wired assurance, when enabled on the switches and just getting telemetry information from all the switches, was very quickly able to identify that a handful of clients were consistently facing a throughput issue. The switch events as proof confirmed it was a storm control in effect frequently. And basically what was happening was that the storm control configuration for multicast had a low threshold. Again, a needle in a haystack. We're talking about 15,000 ports at this one location serving this enterprise customer, impacting maybe just a few clients because of a misconfigured storm control policy. Not only did wired assurance help find the problem, proactively let them know exactly what it was, but then end result was once the configuration was made correct, the end user experience was restored and that network is now humming. This is again, not just visibility into data and trends and logs, but actually telling the network admin what is the root cause, who it's impacting, and the substantiating evidence to say, this is exactly why end user experience is being impacted. Let's now go to higher ed. Very, very interesting phenomena here. And again, this is a recent phenomena based on what we are seeing with the college campuses opening. So students are coming back to campus. There's a rapid increase in client counts. And obviously, a lot of the universities are seeing a surge in multicast and broadcast traffic. In this particular higher ed, and this is pretty common from what we have seen, they have a large L2 domain configured as part of their network policy, which is fine. However, what we did see is that proactively, again, as the students started coming on board, we saw the congestion classifier on the Throughput SLE start spiking up and start causing alerts. As part of evidence of that spike, we also saw the insights from every switch, every port, seeing a spike in traffic. What was a baseline 20 gig daily usage suddenly spiked 10x to 200 to 300, actually more than that, 15x to 300 gig. Obviously, there was a problem in the network. Again, with the help of the SLEs, with the help of this visibility of looking at exactly what ports, what switches were getting impacted, and trying to maintain the current design, we were able to help this customer resolve the issue. We introduced Mist Edge for the centralized data plane so they could maintain that current large L2 domain architecture and prevent any throughput issues from happening with the students coming back to campus. So visibility, yes, but more importantly, visibility with a consequent action of large L2 domain, having a lot of traffic congestion. How can we maintain that architecture, maintain that design, and make sure that our students, or rather every wired client, is getting the throughput it deserves? Last but not least, let's see how this is helping in retail. Again, a very, very interesting incident here, where what we saw was that this was, again, a retail location, thousands of stores. They've deployed wide assurance for the Juniper EX stack in the access layer. And we were seeing these clients connected to those switches getting successfully connected. They were getting an IP address, but we were seeing that they were consistently coming up under the Throughput SLE as clients that were failing to get the right level of throughput. When we go into Marvis actions, what we were able to very quickly see that Marvis proactively identified that there was a negotiation mismatch for that one client in the hundreds of wired clients in this one store. Again, a needle in the haystack problem that Marvis proactively found. More interestingly, this was a headless device. It was a digital signage in one corner of the store, so there was no user complaining. However, the device was in distress. The device was not able to provide the content on the screen because it was not able to get the traffic passing through the switch, all because of a simple configuration of an MTU mismatch on that particular port that device was plugged into. And this is again where wired assurance for the campus, whether it's enterprise, whether it's higher ed, whether it's retail, whether it's healthcare, becomes even more important in assuring customer experiences, because you have a lot of IoT devices coming on board that are headless. There is no user complaining. There is nobody opening a ticket to say, hey, my app is not working, because all of these IoT devices in most cases are headless. But how do you then have a system that can pinpoint and identify these are all the end users, headless or not, having issues, and more importantly, what is the issue because of? This is where AIOps comes to the fore. This is where the baselining using machine learning is so helpful to catch anomalies. And then Marvis comes in to say exactly what the root cause is for a user on the wired network.
I have a quick question. What do you folks actually mean by actions? Because this isn't actions that Marvis is taking on its own, right? This is saying, is that really a label that says these are actions that you want an operator to take, or something? I don't know if that's the appropriate word, but maybe I'm asking the wrong question. But
that's a fantastic question, Ed, right? So if I take this back to what Bob was presenting as part of a self-driving journey that we are on, a lot of these actions are either what we call driver assist mode, where if the action being recommended is out of the Marvis control, for example, if it's a radius issue or it's a DHCP issue, then we will recommend that action to be taken by the network admin. However, if it is an action that's within the domain of Marvis, for example, if it's a missing VLAN, and Abhi will talk to you about some of those actions in detail, if it's a missing VLAN on a switch that is being controlled by the Juniper Mist cloud, then that VLAN, once the network admin says, yes, Marvis, I trust you, go and make the change, can be automatically fixed by Marvis itself. The same thing in the case of an MTU mismatch. Again, if that switch is under the domain of Marvis and the network admin allows Marvis to make those changes, we can automatically go in for that port because we know where the issue is. Marvis can make that MTU configuration change because it knows the device plugged in and what it needs to ensure that the network is back and operating for that particular client. So it is the self-driving piece where some actions are taken by Marvis if authorized to do so, and some are driver assist for elements that are beyond the network control.
Right. Do you guys distinguish between the two in terms of the display or where they're labeled within the UI interface, or is it all listed under actions and you just need to know the difference between what fits in self-driving and what doesn't?
We actually do. So in the follow-on slide, you'll see us go through a demo of each action. Okay. And when I double click on every action, you'll see something called AI validated. So if an issue is resolved by the system admin, it'll actually say AI validated because of resolution by the network administrator, versus if Marvis takes care of it itself, it'll say AI validated by Marvis making that change. So,
is there a mechanism for a way that a human can follow up on an automated action to make sure it actually happened and went through like it should?
Yes. So you will everything that we are showing here, and these are perfect questions for my follow-on slide, are all tied to what we call webhooks. So for example, if you're using a ticketing platform, right? As much as we like to showcase Marvis as the cup of coffee view, we know that a lot of our customers have different elements. And so they essentially pull all of that information into their ticketing platform. So what we do here with each action being shown and the detail for every action to say exactly this switch, this port, this wired client, all of that information gets automatically created as a ticket into a platform like ServiceNow. And then once that issue gets resolved, either because of Marvis taking the action or because of the network admin taking the action, we can also go ahead and close that ticket into the ticketing platform saying this issue is not resolved with that same ticket ID that we generated internally within the system. So it's almost like a full feedback loop. Does it answer your question?
I mean, it's great that you can show the issue is closed, but I guess I'm thinking about, is there some way to verify that it was the correct solution?
Yeah, actually, Drew, that is the point. So within Marvis, there's two stages. There's a resolution of the issue, and then there's an AI validation of the issue. And so you could say, hey, I added this VLAN, and so there should be no missing VLAN now. But Marvis would come back and say, but wait, users are still failing on that AP on that port. So there is a layer of AI validation that conclusively says the problem we were seeing, we no longer see.
Okay, thank you.
And you will see more of this in the follow-on demo as well. So now another part of Marvis is what we call the conversational interface. And if you talk to, if you heard Bob before, our key vision here is that dashboards are dead. And the only way that network administrators and users will interact with a system or a network will be through the conversational interface. This could be your level 1 help desk. This could even be your tier 3, your level 3 network operators. So what does Marvis conversational interface do for wired access? Essentially, you're now chatting with Marvis through this new CI that we have developed for wired access queries specifically. Again, if it's a wired wireless stack, Marvis has more data. Marvis is able to correlate across the wired wireless stack. If it's wired only, no problem. Even there, we have enough telemetry information to identify pre-connection, post-connection issues. Now, the video I'll be showing you here of, again, this was the same live demo network that Sudhir was showing you earlier, is we basically are talking to Marvis and saying, hey, as a ticket came in, let's say this is your level 1 help desk, and instead of them again getting, switch logs and you're going into every port what the trend of traffic has been, they just go into a Marvis CI and say, hey, I want to troubleshoot switches at this particular site. And very quickly, the CI interface tells them exactly which switches, asks the user to choose one of those, and says exactly what's impacting. In this case, the issue was more around the network northbound, where we were seeing impacts from the WAN side that were causing end user experience issues. The same CI interface can now talk back to the failure timeline of when exactly that was happening. That same CI interface enables a workflow for looking at the switch insights for any events that are transpiring on that switch. And through that same CI interface, you're able to look at, again, thousands of locations, thousands of switches, but a single port or one switch across the many, where because of a network issue upstream, because of latency and therefore jitter, it was impacting those 7 ports on that switch and therefore impacting those 7 clients, all done through the Marvis CI interface. So a very easy operational workflow enabled with Marvis CI, pulling in all the telemetry information, hooking into the Mist dashboard, into the AI engine backend, and giving a way for a tier 1 help, or sorry, a level 1 help desk interact with the Juniper cloud to solve very complex problems. It's all about reducing the mean time to resolution by proactively finding the issue of what's impacting end user experiences. We now go into a deeper look into Marvis Actions. So to your point, Drew and Ed, what you were raising earlier. So Marvis Actions, again, is all about proactively finding issues. Some that can be resolved via Marvis directly if authorized to do so. Some that are going to require the network administrator's help to resolve. For example, if it is a bad cable, either a third party on a third party switch or on a Juniper switch, we will require the network admin to call the installer to replace that cable. However, if it's a missing VLAN or a negotiation mismatch, we will be able to call out exactly what port it's on, and then also present whether the issue still exists, has it been resolved, and has it been validated. Abhi, I would like you to chime in here and talk a little bit about the loop detected and the port flap actions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonalini. We all love our loops on the network. The loops there are a few indicators for us to identify loops on the network. The product we're about to introduce to you right after, probably you'll never have to see any of the loops again. But a lot of networks today still continue to run on traditional networks. So there are a few things that you can, if you've enabled spanning tree, and if there's still a loop in the network, you will continue to see a lot of topology change notifications. That is one indicator. You will also see what Sonalini showcased, a huge surge in either broadcast or multicast traffic because there's probably a storm brewing. In the data science world, we call bringing two things together and identifying where there might be an issue. We call it as spatial correlation. So we used some of these indicators, topology change notifications, sudden surge in TX and RX of BCMC, broadcast and multicast traffic, bring them all together and identify if there is a loop in the network. And that's again, Marvis Actions. The reason why it is so powerful is because it is across the entire org, and you're able to pinpoint and identify exactly that there is a loop that is detected among few switches. Now, we want to go further up as well and do more things in terms of correlation as we go along as the system learns. Now, what exactly do we do from the construct of port flaps? Port flaps are again devices that are continuously failing, or some of these HID card readers or card readers that can't negotiate well. They're just going up and down continuously. One, they're not able to actually serve clients. Nobody's able to swipe their cards and get in. Two, it's just a continuous up and down on the network. So we would like for you to understand and probably take action on that. Probably you as an admin want to shut that port down or go configure it to accordingly. But that is the intent of bringing about port flaps to your attention. But I think what I personally like is what is showcased here in front of your slide right now, bad cables. In the Juniper Networks org, we've said this about 1K switches, 50K ports. We monitor every single port at all points and times. We were able to identify 22 bad cables. Bad cables, again, do you need an engine to analyze that? Yeah. The reason is there are a few indicators, again, which will tell you when cables are bad. And that's what you want to be able to ingest that data, let the engine know, and see if those behaviors are continuously being exhibited. If those errors on the cable are continuously incrementing, is the cable continuously down and they're still continuously serving power? Various indicators for us to identify bad cables. We want to showcase true positives in here. Similar constructs with negotiation mismatches and persistently failing clients. And that's the intent of Marvis Actions has always been, it doesn't matter how many ports you are managing as an administrator. It is for us to actually bring about exactly those 15, 20, or even well within 50 issues that you as an administrator can take a look at and then immediately take actions on. You want to shut the port, you want to reopen a ticket to actually fix cable issues or open a ticket. And then once you mark that issue as resolved, we also go back and validate. And on your right-hand side of the screen, there's a scroll that runs through to say it has been AI validated as well. You told me, you told the engine that it has been fixed and it's truly fixed. So that is the intent for Marvis Actions, making life easier for you as an administrator. As Sudhir says, it's the cup of coffee view, and we want to keep it that way. We'll continue to add more things into this view.